What it felt like. It's almost like you fit the code.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we are talking about Dexter New Blood, episode 4, H is for Hero. So I wasn't here last week. I'm so sorry. I had my family over and then stuff going on in my real job. So I also lost my voice after that, and that's why it sounds a little bit funny now. So I hope that you can forgive me, and let's get right into today's episode because it was a good one. It's my favorite one so far. I'm sure a lot of people have said that. I feel like this really picked up the pace, and there was something going on in all of the storylines, and I feel as though they're maybe starting to converge a bit and move together. We also got a ton of callbacks to the original show, so I wanted to talk about a few of those and also some of the little details that I just thought were fun. And I always appreciate in shows like this, it's a similar thing with the L Word, where they have like a little wink to the original viewers of the, original format, original show. And sorry, I said original like 10 times, but there's not really a lot of other ways to explain it. So I really liked as well some of the little call outs that they did, like when Molly was talking about the board. I have been known to get a board out in my video a time or two, so maybe I'll do a Dexter deep dive one time with one of the boards. But the very starting, like with the very first things, the logo, I've been noticing that every week the logo is getting more blood filled, like the new blood part. So I'll put up on the screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And I think that by the end, we're going to just have like a complete blood filled one. So talking about some little details that I noticed that I thought were good, like I was saying before, the original ones. There was Dexter meeting Fred Jr.'s dog.
He's usually very friendly.
Maybe you can smell my goats.
I think he's just aggressive because he hates his name. I don't know, I'm new at this. Maybe I gotta go empty the dog.
And, we had Dexter all the time talking about how animals, didn't like him and had like a sixth sense for him. And then we had the bit where all the different Debs had the signs cheering Dexter on. And Deb was saying, your ultimate dream is that you come off as a hero.
You can't handle the fact that Harrison is a hero. That was always your wet dream. Stand the fact that he's living it because you are a jealous fucking pussy.
Which in this episode, we obviously had Harrison coming off as a hero, Dexter's, fantasy or whatever. And Deb, it reminded me, like, even because the signs all said Miami and stuff, the end of the first season of Dexter, where Dexter has that like fantasy where, all the crowd is cheering him on and they all have signs that are like, Dexter, Dexter. So I thought that was a cool little callback. There was obviously some other stuff too with Harrison and Trinity and stuff, so I'll talk about that when we get to that part. So speaking of Harrison, let's start out talking about him. And in this episode, they go through all these different motions of trying to get to the root of whether Harrison is like Dexter, and does he have a dark passenger or doesn't he?
Because that's the only way you can feel like a real dad, right? If he looks up to you or he wants to be like you, so you could have some sick-ass serial killer family.
And although they do kind of arrive at a conclusion at the end of the episode, or they want us to believe that anyway. I'm not sure whether it's a red herring or whether they're trying to throw us off, because it is only episode 4. And actually, my only complaint about this episode is that it was so fucking short. It was 45 minutes. And I really hope they don't continue doing this, like chopping 10-15 minutes off the end of the episode, because like out of 10 episodes, if you keep cutting here and there, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that's basically cutting off an entire episode. So I hope they bump up the time allotment a little bit more in the final 6. So obviously the big question throughout this episode is what happened with Harrison and Ethan. And this is like a classic TV movie thing where they will talk about something that happened a lot, but obviously they don't show it to us, so it naturally makes the viewers believe, hang on, something's not right here.
It all adds up.
Prove it.
And I really loved kind of Dexter going back into his forensic mind and trying to figure things out that way. And of course, having Deb as like the sounding board. I think Michael C. Hall and Jennifer Carpenter are absolutely amazing actors, and they really brought their A game in this one. They were great, especially the scene where they were working out the blood spatter and everything like that. So I really enjoyed that. And we see Dexter throughout the episode kind of going through this, wanting Harrison to be normal, but then this other side of him that wants to be able to bond with his son and, you know, to not have this block between them. And at the end, Harrison's giving this speech talking about the two sides of us. And I think that you see that represented with Dexter and the apparition of Deb, that, you know, you have this argument all the time about, is Deb, and before Harry, the representation of Dexter's dark passenger? I mean, in the books, they make it clear that it's not, but I think in the TV show, like, they're kind of using that as his unconsciousness, and Deb is a very different take than Harry in the original show. And at the end, when you have Harrison giving this speech, it's kind of telling the audience that Harrison isn't necessarily one thing. Like, he isn't Dexter.
I guess we all have two sides to us. Maybe we're a little bit hero and a little bit, I don't know, monster. It's all about which side wins out in the end.
There's this duality inside him where he maybe does have this dark passenger and Dexter part, but there's also this light in him that he does seem to have emotions and empathy and things. And who knows, Harrison could be a more evolved Dexter, that he is able to still walk in the world normally, and like we've seen, you know, he's popular, he gets on with people, he can have actual emotion. Like, when he's listening to the podcast, there's no one else there. Like, he's not putting on a show the way Dexter would have to put on a show for other people. Like, Harrison actually seems to have emotions and empathy and feelings, whereas with Dexter, a lot of it is an act. I mean, you know, there's the argument to be made as Dexter and his son, like, there is real feeling there, or, you know, that's a point for another day. But to talk specifically about the podcast and Harrison and Trinity and everything, so I thought that scene was super eerie and one of the best scenes in the episode.
Welcome to Mary Fucking Kill. I'm Molly Park, and do I have a doozy of an episode for you? I'm doing the creepiest fuck and truly terrifying Trinity killer.
The guy that's playing Harrison, Jack Alcott, I think his name is, he is really fantastic in the show as well. I mean, Harrison obviously knows like the full extent of what happened with Rita, because like the internet exists, and he did tell the kids like, oh, she was murdered, but I'm assuming that he knew everything.
But this chick is a mother, a gorgeous girl next door beauty with a picture perfect family.
And then this reveal of like the straight razor, like he obviously had it at school the day he was listening to the podcast, so he knew about it. And I do think that, you know, there's going to be more with Trinity and with Rita and with the podcast as a whole.
She has a young baby who is in the fucking room when she dies, crawling in a pool of his mother's blood. How fucked up is that kid now?
Because the picture that they use for Rita, well, it looks to me anyway like it's one of the wedding pictures. So I mean, Molly seems to be pretty detailed, and also the fact that she keeps like talking about, oh, these internet sleuths.
You'd be surprised what 800,000 amateur sleuths can dig up in a matter of hours. I also got her last 3 addresses and a cell phone number.
I feel as though that is going to come back around with the whole Dexter thing, and like I don't know whether we're being led to believe like, oh, she hasn't realized Jim is Dexter, or is she like pretending that she doesn't know? Because we've seen her interact with Dexter a couple of times, like at the store when they first met, and then in this episode she like says, oh, I heard your son was a hero. So she definitely hasn't let on that she knows who he is, and like obviously he's supposed to be dead, so why would she be thinking that, you know, this guy who looks exactly like him, like, yeah, he's aged a bit, but he still looks exactly the same. So personally, I think that if they don't somehow work in Molly realizing who Dexter is and connecting it all, it'll be a bit silly, because they're so focusing on like the fact that Harrison really found Dexter through Instagram, the fact that she's like, oh, I put up one picture of these missing girls and like, you know, they found one of them.
Resources, and I've got an army of armchair detectives.
I thought you wanted to do the Matt Caldwell story.
Every great podcast starts about one thing and then ends up somewhere completely unexpected.
In like a matter of a day or two, and then Dexter, like, you know, is in this black hole of nothing, that like nobody's put it together or realized or found anything. So I really think the thing with Molly will all become connected, and especially because like when Harrison went on her podcast, like that was like one of her top episodes, so I'm assuming she has really gone into detail and like poured over this stuff. So I will be interested to see how it all comes back around. I do think there's a lot of stuff that could be used as setups. Like we had Audrey taking the picture of like the lists, and that didn't really go anywhere, because I thought when she did that it was going to be revealed that like she'd told all the people on that list, but then we saw them all in the auditorium, and then I was thinking maybe Harrison has set it up this way so that all those people would be put in an auditorium together. So to speak specifically about the ending and, you know, the reveal that Harrison had the straight razor and it was how Trinity killed.
Trinity used a straight razor to kill his mother.
I do think that you do see this like duality of Dexter's reaction at the end, because, you know, everybody's like, oh, is he smiling? Is he relieved? Is he sad or what? And when you see Dexter like holding the knife, like it's blocking his face. But I think Dexter was maybe not broadly smiling, but I do think that you see that slight like indication of a smile on his face, like, oh, my son is like me. And then you also see his other reaction, the other side of him, that because Harrison's like voiceover had just ended about talking about these two sides, and then you see Deb like really upset and saying he's like you in a bad way.
He was born in blood just like you.
He has my dark passenger.
And she's like crying. So I think that that's Dexter's two reactions, and that it doesn't just have to be one, because with his son it's like the only thing that has Dexter react differently to things, because normally like he just doesn't have emotion or feeling or empathy. And then we also have Kurt Caldwell taking the girl up to the cabin. I did actually say in either episode 1 or 2, my reviews, that I did think it was Kurt, and I thought that, you know, the reason that the lock was broke was because Kurt had obviously used it with these girls, or they changed the lock, sorry. And then also we did have Kurt calling off the search last time by telling them Matt had called him when he hadn't, obviously. And that was whenever Angela was saying like, oh, they're gonna go, you know, and look in these places and stuff. And obviously Kurt was worried about them finding out about the situation he's got going on up there. But I do think that it's early days for a lot of this stuff. Like Kurt being revealed with the girls, like, is that really a reveal? Like Dexter finding the straight razor and it being the way Trinity killed. It seems really early, even though I know it's a short season with only 10 episodes. And I do think Harrison's speech at the end was really interesting, because I don't think that the answer is Harrison is 100% not like Dexter or Harrison is 100% like Dexter. I think that Harrison is maybe a different version of Dexter, where yes, he does have the dark passenger and stuff, but he also does have this emotional side where he can be empathetic and things like that. So it will be really interesting to see where it goes, because, you know, Harrison then could be a more evolved killer, because he doesn't have animals, you know, freaking out at him, and people aren't, you know, immediately suspicious of him or feel there's something different, and he's a more adapted predator, really. But who knows, all this could be a complete misdirect, and he could really, you know, just be completely not like Dexter, or he could be exactly like him. So it's all still up in the air, and I think that there's still a lot of pieces being put in place. I am really interested in the angle of like the podcast and then Dexter maybe being found out that he is Dexter, but we shall see. I'm sure everyone has a lot of thoughts and theories, so let me know down in the comment section any of the hot takes that you have, and let me know what you think is going on with Harrison. So thank you so much as always for watching. Make sure that you have hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any content. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a big thumbs up on the video, and don't forget to check out my social media, my Patreon, or my merch store. And starting on Wednesday, the 1st of December, I will be doing my advent calendar where I post a video every single day in December. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. And as always, make sure to stay safe, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.